Hi, I'm Pattu from freefincal. Today let's talk about how much corpus do we need to retire in India by age 45. Of course, this depends on a lot of parameters, so we'll take some example parameters and you can work it out. I shall use the freefincal robo advisory template to make this plan. But before we do that, I want to clarify that people get all sort of wrong ideas when they hear the phrase retire by 40 or retire by 45. I don't really mean that they're going to stop doing any kind of work and then sit around all day. What I mean is that they're going to retire from a salaried life. They will not have a employer anymore. They don't need to get up every day and force themselves to go to work. They can do freelancing. They can spend their time any way they want, actively or whatever. Actively, gainfully employed or however. But it's just that income is not going to be crucial for their present and future life. That's what we're going to talk about. That's the scenario we are considering, and we can always do a very simple thumb rule kind of calculation. For example, if a person's annual expense is 6 lakhs at age 85, this is very important, 6 lakhs at age 85. That is, we are not going to consider a 25-year-old or 35-year-old wanting to retire at age 45. I will do that calculation maybe in another video. Here we are considering a person who is currently 45 and whose current expenses is about 6 lakhs. Then if you assume 6% inflation and if you take the overall return, post-tax return on the corpus is about 6%, so that is zero real return, then assuming that the person will live up to age 90, then you will need that 6 lakhs into 45, which is like the 45 years is the years in retirement. So 6 lakhs into 45 is going to be about 2.7 crores. So that's simple thumb rule kind of calculation. But this kind of thumb rule calculation of 45x or 30x will be okay if the person has got another 15-20 years to retirement. Then you can do a ballpark calculation. But when the person is about to retire or just a few years from retirement, then you have to do a proper allocation of assets in different buckets, and that's what we're going to talk about using the robo advisory template. So I hate all these rough estimates. I don't know why people do thumb rule calculations when you can actually do a proper calculation in just a couple of minutes. There's no big benefit by doing a thumb rule. All you're going to do is make mistakes because it's just going to be an approximation. Now, what we're going to assume is that the person has got 6 lakhs annual expense. The inflation is 6%. The life expectancy is 90. The total corpus in hand is only 2 crores. Remember, we just calculated approximately 2.7 crores, but we will see that 2 crores is enough. And no other income source is used. So the question is, can this person retire by age 45? And the answer is yes. So what we will do is, or what the robo advisory template does, is it divides the corpus into 4 buckets. Now these allocations here are shown for one particular example, and this should not be used by everybody because the robo advisory template will change the allocation depending on the age of the person, the inputs and so on. So there's going to be an income bucket from which part of the corpus is put in the income bucket, and guaranteed 15 years income is taken from this corpus. So this income bucket will have no equity allocation. Then there is a low risk bucket, then there's a medium risk bucket, then there's a high risk bucket. And what the calculator assumes is that so in the, let me just go here. Yeah, so there is a income bucket for first 15 years. Then there is a low risk bucket for the next 16 to 26 years. So for the next 10 years in retirement, the income for the next 10 years in retirement is getting ready in this bucket, the low risk bucket. Then for future years, you have a medium risk bucket and a high risk bucket and so on, as shown here. You can actively manage these buckets by taking money from here and putting it there, taking money from here and putting it there, and so on. I have a retirement bucket strategy simulator. It's an Excel game which you can play. You can download it from the website and play with it and see how long your corpus would last and so on. So this is the kind of rough allocations that I have done. So you the final allocations are 5% of the 2 crore corpus you put into an emergency bucket just for handling emergencies. 45% is allocated to an income bucket. Then you put about 25% in a low risk bucket. Medium risk is about 13%. High risk bucket is about 11%. Now the high risk bucket will have more of equity. Medium risk will have a little more of equity. Low risk will have a little bit of equity, and income bucket will have no equity. So that's the kind of asset allocations. All these numbers will change depending on the inputs of the inputs the user will give, and that's how you basically plan for retirement. And remember, this is just 2 crores, whereas the approximate thumb rule gave you 2.7 crores. That's off by 70 lakhs. That's a huge error there. So don't rely on thumb rules. You can do a very exact calculation, particularly when you're closer to retirement with the robo advisory template. There are many examples. I had already given you, there's one more example. You can have a look at this. This should be available. Creating a retirement income plan for a 27-year-old Amar. I think this video is available. You can have a look at it. I have also done I am 30, I want to retire by 50. How should I plan for retirement and so on. So this is the rough idea of the bucket strategy, which one should have well before retirement. In this case, the person is already 45 and wants to quit, but it's better to have this kind of a bucket strategy built into the calculation well in advance.